Last night I was presented the only way to have 218 votes if I provided certain members with certain positions, certain gavels, to take over the church committee, to have certain budgets. And they even came to the position where one, Matt Gaetz, said, I don't care if we go to plurality and we elect Hakeem Jeffries and it hurts the new frontline members not to get reelected.
All right, that is Kevin McCarthy, the Republican majority leader who wants to be speaker, saying he's being held hostage by other Republicans. Stef Kight is here with Axios, who covers what you are seeing right there, the United States Congress, among other things. Stef, it feels as though Republicans walked in today without a plan and are now in a far worse situation than they ever thought they would be.
It does sort of feel like that, especially after we saw, 3 rounds of votes today in the chamber. And with all 3, we saw 19 and in the last vote, 20 people voting against McCarthy, but very little movement around, any other potential candidate to be speaker. And it really does seem that, there's this group of Republicans who tend to fall on the far right end of the spectrum who are really, keeping things still right now, unwilling to change their minds and vote for McCarthy, despite the fact that McCarthy does overwhelmingly have, support from many more of the members of the caucus. And we'll just have to see whether they're able to reach any kind of agreement tonight before Congress meets again tomorrow at noon.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think that Congress is actually acting in a way that it probably did back in the 1920s or 30s. In fact, this is the last time it happened. Reporters are now having to do like the old-fashioned shoe leather reporting. It's not just sort of perfunctory press releases that are coming out. I got a note from a Republican congressman who I asked to have come on the show this evening. I'm not going to do press. I've had 1,000 calls today telling me not to vote for Kevin. And I'm wondering, as a print reporter who does not have to have people come on television and show their face, are there another group of Republicans who are scared to say they support somebody other than Kevin McCarthy? And if so, what does McCarthy have over them?
I'm sure there are some members who are not sure whether they're willing to support someone else. We have, though, also heard from members who do support Kevin McCarthy and who are frustrated by this wing of the party who is, stalling his election as speaker. So, I think you can talk to people in various categories right now. And I think there's generally a sense of frustration that, the day has gone on. There is no speaker. Republicans are unable to move forward. On the other hand, I did speak to one Republican member of Congress who said they thought it was important to show that they take seriously the leadership in the House and that it's not something that should be done just because there's an obvious choice, that it's something that should be debated and thought through. So you're hearing, one of the issues right now is that there are many different people within the Republican Party in the House who are taking, very different tactics when it comes to deciding who they'll vote for.
Yeah, we love covering this as reporters. It's like the greatest thing ever to have this and to have the play-by-play going on. Democrats, I'm not sure if we have the graphic, but a couple of them tweeted out pictures of them bringing popcorn down to the House floor, pop the popcorn and watch Republicans fight amongst themselves. It's some television network's favorite idea of Republicans at war with each other. At the same time, does it really matter whether it takes 1 day, 3 days, 5 days for Republicans if they purify the party and coalesce around somebody who becomes a real leader? Does it really matter in the grand scheme of things?
Well, I think it depends on what that outcome actually is. Does it actually unify the party, or does this drag on and create, increasingly more fractures within the Republican Party that will make it more difficult for them to get things done moving forward? As things stand, if for some way Kevin McCarthy manages to get the support he needs, he's still going to face issues down the road with this same group of Republicans who have challenged his speakership, who have very specific requests from him, concerns with him, even the concessions McCarthy has already made to that group will already put him, at more of a disadvantage in getting things done. Will set up more stumbling blocks for him. And of course, I think any person who ends up getting chosen as speaker at this point is going to face some of this division that we're seeing today. Ultimately, will it make a difference whether the decision was made today or a few days from now? Maybe not, but we'll just have to see how this plays out and whether we actually see unity form.
Yeah, you make such a great point that there's any speaker is going to face this razor thin majority that Republicans have. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.